Hello and welcome to Think Watercolour. For today's demonstration I want to show how you can take a fairly ordinary reference photo and add some depth and drama to your painting. I took this picture of one of our local churches on my iPhone, and whilst it's not a bad photograph, phone cameras tend to flatten the depth of field so that everything in the picture is sharp and in focus. So to make it a more interesting subject, I decided to paint it in portrait format and to add a more dramatic sky as well. And to add depth, I made the church a little smaller and painted the foreground trees darker to create more aerial perspective in the sketch. This is quite a small sketch. It's roughly 6 inches wide by 9 inches tall, and I'll probably use it as a preparatory sketch for a bigger, more finished painting. So let me talk you through my process for this painting. I started with the sky working on dry paper for a little more control over the way the colours blend together. I'm using Naples yellow, cobalt blue and imperial purple, and my aim is to create a diagonal from top left to bottom right to create a composition that leads the eye across the painting. And I want to leave a little bit of a hard edge on part of the white cloud as a focal point. I'm letting the colours blend and mix together wet in wet, and I'm using a clean damp brush to soften some of the edges. I've added a touch of burnt sienna to the blue to make a warm grey to add a little more drama to the look. Always remember that when you're painting a sky like this, as long as the paper remains wet, you can add more colour and lift out with a clean damp brush to create some lighter areas. I've let the sky dry and I'm now working on the initial wash for the church using Naples yellow and leaving the white of the paper for the lightest lights. And for the foreground trees I'm using sap green, jadeite green and cobalt blue. I'm just painting the trees wet in wet and dropping in the darker colours, letting it all blend together. I'm making a start on the church again. This is ultramarine with a touch of burnt sienna. I'm not too worried about getting the colours absolutely correct for the church. I'm more interested in getting the values right. The same applies to detail. This is too small a sketch to paint any real fine detail. A suggestion of what's there will be fine. Just as a point of interest, this is St Bartholomew's Church in Wilmslow in Cheshire, and I believe there's been a church here since the mid-13th century, and it's been rebuilt and changed over the centuries, and I think the last major rebuilding was in mid-19th century. And I think this is the end result. The roof of the church is a sort of greeny colour, so I'm using a mixture of cobalt blue and sap green. And for the window details and some of the shadows, I'm just using whatever colours are in the palette, just mixing what's there. As I said earlier, I'm not too worried about getting the colours exactly right. It's more about the values. Just have to put a hint of the windows. No real detail. It's too small a sketch for that, as I said already. I forgot to mention earlier, this is 300 gram Saunders Waterford rough white paper. It's my favourite paper to use for this sort of painting. I sometimes use Bao and Arches, or Arche if you're French. Both very good papers too. The Bao is really rough and it's great for really textured paintings. Now starting on the foreground trees, adding the next wash, some cadmium yellow at the top and mixing in with some more sap green and jadeite green. straight from the tube, almost the jadeite green. Just to, it's all wet and wet, just keeping it nice and strong. I want the foreground to really come forward. Less so on the right hand side, so that's going to be, I'm going to leave that lighter. For the trees on the left and the leaves, I'm using jadeite green with some cobalt blue, just to strengthen the tonal value. Just added a little bit more of the blue. Just brings that side of the painting forward, and the idea is to create depth and a little bit of drama. Not being too fussy, just suggesting what's there. I'm just using a rigger here for some of the branches, using the same colour really. It's just a dark, very dark green, just to indicate some branches and twigs and things. Just brings that foreground forward, as I said. Just finishing off the flag, a little bit of red, a little bit of blue. Still not happy with the tonal values on the shaded side of the church, so I'm just darkening that. We'll see how that dries. Just adding a little bit of shadow here and there on the roof. And I think I'm pretty much done. I let the painting dry, and I noticed that the yellow on the trees on the right was a bit strong, so I've softened that and lifted out some of the colour to lighten it. I hope you found this quick demonstration useful. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it. Do subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and hit the notification bell for future videos. And thanks again for watching.